federal prosecutor overseeing the investigation into Hunter Biden refuted a whistleblower's claims about who makes the decision on whether or not to charge the president's son. Hunter Biden agreed in June to plead guilty to multiple counts related to his failure to pay taxes and illegal possession of a firearm. An IRS whistleblower told CBS News last month that U.S. Attorney David Weiss said he was not the deciding person on whether to file charges, and that Weiss asked to be designated as special counsel, but was denied. Let's bring in CBS News senior investigative correspondent Catherine Herridge. Catherine, what is David Weiss exactly saying to these claims made by the whistleblower?
Well, John, the U.S. Attorney David Weiss sent this letter to the chairman and ranking member of the Senate Judiciary Committee, and there are three main headlines. First, he says categorically that he never sought special counsel status, and that conflicts with the claims of one of the IRS whistleblowers. Second, he says that he did consult with the Justice Department about whether he had the authority to bring charges outside of Delaware. He says that he was assured that he had that authority if he needed it. That's a more nuanced answer as to his explanation of being the ultimate authority for the charging decisions. And finally, and I think it's worth noting, Weiss confirms the existence of this FBI record that contains allegations of a bribery scheme involving Hunter Biden and then Vice President Joe Biden. And he says that record is part of an ongoing investigation, John.
Catherine, on that last piece, explain why that matters, the idea that this allegation exists. What was up in the air about that?
Well, what was up in the air for some time is whether this record even existed. It's called an FD 1023, and FD 1023 is an FBI interview summary with a confidential human source, not a walk-in per se. And what has not been resolved is whether these allegations were run down and found to be not credible, or found to be credible and worthy of further pursuit. So the fact the U.S. Attorney is confirming, number one, the record exists, and number two, that it's part of an ongoing investigation, seems to move that part of the story forward.
Hunter Biden's plea deal is not yet set in stone. What's the latest on that?
Well, the target date, John, is for the end of this month, July 26th. A Delaware federal judge will have a review of the plea agreement and then final approval. All of the public indicators are that that's on track. However, there's been a Freedom of Information Act litigation by the Heritage Foundation here in Washington. This is a conservative think tank. And they claim in some of their conversations with the Justice Department there were hints, and I emphasize hints, that the plea agreement could be pushed off or delayed somewhat. But again, we're not seeing any public indication, certainly from the Justice Department, that that's going to be the case.
The whistleblower has also made claims against Assistant U.S. Attorney Leslie Wolfe. What do we know about those?
Well, Leslie Wolfe is emerging as really one of the central players in these allegations. She's the deputy to the U.S. Attorney David Weiss, so she's kind of like the chief operating officer. You know, she's kind of running the day-to-day of the investigation. And what the whistleblowers allege is that she was, in their view, running interference. She was excluding these IRS agents from meetings where there was discussion of potential tax violations, that she blocked some of the witness interviews, and more specifically, that she ran interference on their efforts to get into a storage locker, which they thought could have relevant information. For the part of the U.S. Attorney in Delaware, her boss, they've declined to comment on the allegations specifically against her.
Catherine Herridge in Washington, thank you.
You're welcome.